Hi everybody, welcome back to the very first edition of the Fargo Force Show for the 2015-2016 season. I'm your host, Trevor Peterson. Pleased to be joined this year by the new Fargo Force head coach, Cary Eades. Coach, you haven't been in town all that long. You took over this summer. How are things going so far? And welcome to the area, I guess.
Well, thanks, Trevor. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here in Fargo. Great area to live, and obviously the Fargo Force organization is, first class all the way, and really enjoyed the transition thus far.
And you grew up in the Red River Valley, right? This is kind of your home area?
Yeah, I've spent about 19 years of my adult life. Of course, went to the University of North Dakota and coached there for 15 years, as well as 11 years up in northern Minnesota and Warroad. So real comfortable with the area. I have a lot of friends and family.
Obviously, people that know hockey around the area know this guy well. He's one of the best coaches around. He played at UND and then 7 seasons as an assistant coach, ironically enough, in 1987 with some former Force head coaches, Dean Blaze and John Marks there. Then for 2 years as head coach and GM of Dubuque in the USHL, where you won a national junior title in 1993 and had a .647 winning percentage. Then, as you mentioned, head coach for 11 seasons at Warroad High School, where you won 3 state A titles and had a fantastic winning percentage there. Back to UND as a stint as an assistant coach for 8 seasons. And then the last 2 seasons, you've been the head coach and general manager of the Sioux Falls Stampede, where you had a .599 winning percentage and, of course, won the championship last year, the Clark Cup Championship. Talk a little bit about your decision to, after you won that title for Sioux Falls, to leave that organization and come up here to Fargo.
Yeah, I mean, it was a wonderful year, especially at the end. Really enjoyed my stint in Sioux Falls. It's a great community, but, I know I've known John Crum for a while and Ace Brandt and the people of the Fargo Force organization, and as we said, this was close to home. It was a great opportunity, and I've really enjoyed the transition and looking forward to trying to build a championship team here in Fargo.
Now, you've won championships, as we saw, at several different levels. Every place you've been a head coach, basically, you've won a championship. What is your recipe for success? Can you put your finger on maybe one thing that's enabled you to do that?
I just think you have to be a hard-working team, and you have a great work ethic. You have to have great chemistry. A lot of things go into it. Obviously, along the way, you got to have a few bounces and breaks. But to really build a successful organization, you got to be all in. And that's easier said than done. Human nature is to be a little selfish and self-serving and think of yourself, and you really have to sacrifice some of your individual statistics and goals and wishes for the betterment of the group. So that's what we're going to teach here and preach, and hopefully the guys will buy in and we'll have a successful team.
Now, what kind of style can we expect, can Force fans expect from you? Do you bring to the ice for the guys?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that knows me as a player and the team's a little bit mirror that is we're going to have an aggressive team, and with that, I mean, hockey has changed in 30 years. Aggressive meant something different 30 years ago. There was a much more intimidation. Now there's much more discipline, but aggressive as far as puck pressure, aggressive as far as exciting systems that are fast-paced. So we got to get in better condition. Our team right now is in preseason condition, and we got a ways to go to play the game as fast as we want to play it, both with and without the puck.
What's this offseason been like for you, taking over a new organization? Is it a difficult thing? Has it been maybe easier than you thought? What's the offseason been like up to this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty been a real smooth transition, with John and Whitney and the organizational offices upstairs have really helped out a lot, and Byron Poole, associate head coach, has really done a nice job. We had a little transition in coaching staffs and have added Pierre-Paul Lamoureux here till end of the summer. So, that has been a little bit of transition in whose responsibilities are going to do what as far as scouting and on the bench and so on and so forth. But for the most part, I'm very familiar with the league and the rules and the players after tryout camp. So it's kind of been business as usual in the USHL.
As we mentioned, the Force will be heading into their 8th season in the USHL. 5 straight playoff appearances from 08 to 13. But now the last 2 seasons, the Force have not made the playoffs. They do have 3 Clark Cup Finals appearances, still looking for that first title there. The last 3 seasons, of course, last year, 26, 28, and 6 in the Western Conference. The year before that, last in the Western Conference, but just 2 seasons ago, the Western Conference champs and league runner-up. And Coach, I imagine the Force fans are very eager to get back in the playoffs and get back to those Clark Cup finals and win the championship, their first ever.
You know, that's the goal of any season and any good organization. And obviously that's something down the road we'll discuss. You know, I think first of all we got to start to learn how to crawl, and then we can walk, and then we can run. It's a silly adage, but we've got a lot of new things with our team, new systems, new drills, new everything. Hopefully that transition time for the players and getting us into a winning structure and a successful team, game in, game out, isn't going to take that long, because the points that you earn in October are still the same value as the ones in March and April, so you can't fall too far behind. But you know, making the playoffs is really the first goal of any team, I think, should be in the USHL, and that's easier said than done in our league because less than half the teams make the playoffs. So very difficult, but that's our first goal in front of us. But you know, we got to get winning some hockey games first.
And like you said, getting into the playoffs. I mean, you guys at Sioux Falls last year were a 4 seed, and one of the few 4 seeds ever to win the championship. So you know exactly what you just said. Just getting in, and then anything can happen in hockey, right? Especially.
Correct. You know, you've got to build that team. Hopefully make the playoffs like we did in Sioux Falls, and we were the 4th seed in the West and the 8th overall and ran the table, much like the LA Kings did in the NHL here a couple years ago. So get into the tournament, be playing well, be healthy, and be playing your best hockey. That's the ultimate formula for success. You've
been with the Force now for a few months here. What are the biggest challenges when you take over a new organization? What are some of the biggest challenges? Is it just implementing your system? Is it changing the mindset or the attitude? Is it learning all the guys and being familiar with some of these new guys that you don't have much familiarity with?
All of the above. You know, it really is. It's hard to pinpoint anything particular. As I mentioned before, the systems are new, the practice drills are new. I mean, when you have returning players, and sometimes in junior it's between 5 and 10 at the most, but at least those guys can go to the front of the line and the players behind them can see what you're doing and you not have to explain everything. So kind of starting, you know, from ground zero here. And with that, you know, it brings a lot of different challenges, but there's newness, there's excitement. We do have some very exciting and returning veteran players that we'll discuss here. And, you know, we're like what we have right now. Of course, you know, with junior hockey, you kind of add as you go along to different areas of your team that might be a little deficient. So we'll see how that goes. But right now, through the tryout camp, through training camp here, and about to start our regular season, we're excited with the group we have.
Well, you mentioned a few of those returning guys. Let's talk about a couple of the guys that Force fans will be familiar with from the last year or two that you have returning that you're going to kind of rely on, especially even early in the season here.
Yeah, I'd say up front, you know, Zach Yon, Brody Stevens, Shane McMahon are 3 of the guys that are really going to look for us as far as veteran leadership, and I didn't mention Austin Pooley in that group as well. Dennis Smirnoff back for a 3rd season in the league, a guy that brings winning experience, won a championship with Indianapolis a couple years ago. We were looking forward to him being one of our top scorers in the team and hopefully throughout the league. They had an up and down season, inconsistent season. They were close to making the playoffs. Those guys really want to push this organization into the playoffs, and those are guys that the younger players or players coming from other leagues that'll look to, especially early on, for leadership.
When you have guys that you know, you were familiar with some of these guys playing against them with Sioux Falls many times, especially being in the conference. How is it for you? I mean, looking at some of these guys, do you maybe bring them, guys like Austin and Zach, some of the guys that you're familiar with, do you maybe bring them a little different perspective? And it's like, hey, here's what we saw from you being on the other side last year. This is what we maybe need from you now. Maybe it kind of is an eye-opener for some of these guys as far as they get a different perspective from the outside.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, I mean, again, it's a new year, and you know, one of the things with the newness is an excitement for a player to kind of reinvent themselves a little bit. And I think Austin Pooley is a good example of that. He's kind of grasped a leadership role. He's a vocal guy. One of our few vocal guys. We got a kind of a quiet team right now, but you know, he's out there. He's excited when he's playing. He really makes practices fun. He's an energetic guy, and he adds energy to the team in the locker room. So, you know, you have a past that carries forward, and obviously, you know, with Brody and Zach scoring a lot of goals that year, we want that to continue. But we want their game to grow, their leadership skills to grow, and just their overall consistency to improve.
And the last few years, the Force, maybe the biggest thing that they've struggled with is scoring goals. Do you foresee that as something that is still going to be a work in progress this year, or do you feel like with some of those guys back that might be maybe one of your strengths or something that you at least maybe won't have to worry about quite as much this year?
Yeah, it's a common problem in hockey. You know, there's, for first of all, the goaltenders are so well coached, conditioned, and they're big. And scoring in hockey has become a challenge at all levels, you know. And obviously, with the force difficulties the last 2 seasons, you know, you don't really know how that's going to go. I mean, last year in Sioux Falls, we only scored 20 goals the first 10 games. It's 2 a game. So obviously, you're not going to win a lot of hockey games that way. But we're able to add some pieces, improve our power play, which is really an important key in today's game to have a proficient power play. So we like the talent that we have, who plays well together, what line matches we have, what kind of power play groups we have. Time will tell on that, but yeah, we got to get closer to that 3 goals per game average than 2.
The Force have played 3 preseason games thus far. You guys were 2-1 in the preseason. What did you learn about your team in those 3 preseason games, Coach?
I learned we have a lot to learn. You know, that's one of the things through the games. I mean, you start practicing, you're feeling pretty good about each other, and then you play an opponent and really get challenged in different ways. And that's what the exhibition season is about. We also had 2 scrimmages where we kind of practice games that, you know, so in reality, we really had 5 evaluations against other opponents. And you find out, you know, when the game's on the line, who can perform. Obviously, our conditioning is not to where we wanted it to go. We thought it was pretty good in practice and realized that that's going to take a little time. And with Phil Fott, our athletic trainer, does an outstanding job in our strength and conditioning. That'll improve as we go along here. But we found out about some individuals. You know, unfortunately, yesterday was cut day. We had to let go of 4 players yesterday and 1 last Tuesday. So, you know, trying to figure out what your roster is and then who's going to play well together.
Well, before we look ahead to the upcoming Force schedule, for guys and people that maybe don't know you as well, we're learning that you're a big music fan. In your off season, when you're not on the rink or on the ice, I suppose, you can be found at a concert a little bit, huh? Any particular genre or groups that you like? I saw you were kind of traveling throughout the country this year, going to some different concerts.
Yeah, I really enjoy music. You know, I mean, a lot of pressure in coaching and a lot of time that we put in, and it's one of my releases, you know, and I really enjoy music. Went to a lot of concerts. Big Wee Fest fan.
Okay.
You know, country music, I've really kind of learned to appreciate through Wee Fest. And then obviously, you know, all different kinds, old rock, and big U2 fan. Was able to take a concert in at the Pepsi Center in Denver, U2. It's always a thrill. So enjoy that, and look forward to taking in some concerts in the Fargo-Moorhead area.
All right, and the Force fans are looking forward to starting the season. Friday, September 25th is the home and the season opener for the Fargo Force. They will take on the Western Conference champs from last year, Sioux City, at 7:05 at Shields Arena. At 6 o'clock, games to go inflatables will be there for the kids, so get there early. A lot of family fun for that one. That's the home opener Friday, September 25th. And you guys will go on the road the next week for a couple on October 2nd at Cedar Rapids and then October 3rd at Waterloo. And of course, always for tickets for the Force, you can call 364-3672 or go to fargoforce.com. Coach, you've had many season openers throughout your history. Is it always exciting, even for a coach with your experience, to get this season underway here as you're going to do this week?
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's a new start. It's a new beginning. There's belief all the way up and down the lineup with every team. You know, everybody's 0-0. And, you know, with that, though, there's a little apprehension, you know, a little insecurity, especially amongst the players. They're young. You got to try to get them to settle down, to relax, to have confidence, play their game. It's a hockey game like any other. So, hey, if the butterflies aren't going, I think you should get out of the game. So it's exciting. We're really excited to get this new era going in the Fargo Force organization and kind of see what we have and build from here.
All right. Cary Eades, the new Fargo Force coach. They begin the season this weekend. Coach, thanks for joining us and best of luck this season.
Appreciate it, Trevor. Thanks for having me.
All right. That'll do it for this week's edition of the Fargo Force Show. We'll see you next time.